he was flunking out of at University of Edinburgh when he was 17. But he also first made his mark as a naturalist, which turned out to be his ultimate career.
Yeah.
And he was one of the most famous naturalists of all time. Charles Darwin
is the most famous.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Probably is the most famous. And he later said, he wrote books on all kinds of things, did all kinds of research. He later said that he wished that he'd paid more attention to mathematics classes.
Yeah.
That would have helped him later in life. But no one could say he was critically impaired by that.
Yeah.
He certainly was not critically impaired. He did use his time for other things, which turned out to be really, really important.
Yeah.
What he was really good at was learning lots and lots and lots of details about the different animals he was working with. He just had a mind that absorbed these details.
Okay.
And he often said about himself, "Oh, I'm not particularly brilliant. I just keep slogging away at things. I just keep learning and learning and learning, and eventually things just become clear."
Yeah.
And he spent years and years just daydreaming, and he spent 8 years working on barnacles, just barnacles. He was the world expert on barnacles.
Okay.
Took him 8 years. He later in his autobiography wrote, "I probably spent too much time on barnacles." But he wrote 3 books on barnacles.
Yeah.
He wrote the definitive works on defining the barnacle
He was questioning
species.
everything he was doing at the time.
Well, yeah, it actually started when he found one barnacle that was weird. It was this weird barnacle that had no shell. It burrowed into the shell of this mollusk, and it lived there.
Huh.
But it was a barnacle, and he said, "That's strange." And he wanted to compare it to other barnacles, so he had to learn all about all the barnacles.
Yeah.
And he put out letters to everybody all around the world saying, "Send me any barnacles you have. My project is to become the world expert in barnacles."
Yeah.
And so all his friends did that. And so 8 years later, he had the definitive reputation. That's why he was taken seriously when he had his evolutionary theory, because other people had the evolutionary theory before him, different parts of it.
Yeah.
By his own count, something like 31 different scientists had proposed something like the theory of evolution.
But he put it all together.
He put it all together, and he was taken seriously because he had described species before, so he was seen as someone who knew that stuff.
Yeah.
But he was the guy who flunked out of Edinburgh. I can quote a letter from his sister that was written to him when he was 17, saying, "Papa desires me to tell you that your plan of picking and choosing which lectures to go to is not a sound one, for you cannot know what you need to learn at this stage of your life, and you must put up with a certain amount of dry and stupid work." Well, he didn't take that advice and dropped out, and he eventually went to Cambridge, where he just slept-walked his way through and did get his degree. He was going to be a clergyman, then decided he didn't want to, so his degree didn't help him. He later said his real education never began until he went on the Beagle voyage. That's when he said his real education began.
Okay.
He traveled. You must go as he did. You must embark on your travels. You must follow in Darwin's footsteps. You'll be the Darwin of permaculture, man.
There you go.
You'll discover how it is that you're probably the one who discovered true sentience in mycelium.
So, James, are you suggesting he waits till he's 27?
No, you don't have to wait. Don't wait till you're 27 until you start getting nervous about what you're going to do when you grow up. Because Mark Twain, Charles Darwin, and Vincent van Gogh, none of them knew what they were going to be when they grew up until they were 27 years old. Mark Twain spent 10 years as a riverboat pilot and thought that's what he was going to be, and that turned out to be wrong. Before that, he was doing typesetting, And then he became a writer. He wasn't a successful writer at first, but when he was 27, he created his pen name Mark Twain and began to be famous. And
Okay.
he hit it big. And Vincent van Gogh didn't know he was going to be a painter. He flunked out of two other things. Flunked out of missionary work, flunked out of being an art dealer. He was fired from his art dealer job because he was moody and unpleasant. And then had one of the most remarkable art careers in history.
Yeah.
In a single 10-year period. And don't hold it against him that he killed himself. He had a mental illness.
Yeah.
But he was very, very passionate about painting. And then Charles Darwin, when he was 27, that's when he was just coming home from his Beagle trip, and he got a letter from his sister at Ascension Island when he was in the last couple months before coming home after a 4-year voyage. His sister said that his journals had been read before the Royal Society, and that they were saying that he would take his place among the great scientific men. And he realized that finally that's what his profession would be.
Yeah.
When he went on the Beagle trip, it wasn't as a naturalist. Do you know what he was supposed to be?
What?
A gentleman companion. That was actually his job title on the Beagle, is that the captain wanted a gentleman companion to converse with and perhaps do naturalism and observing. He thought of himself as a geologist when he started.
Okay.
But by the end of the voyage, he had become a naturalist and an amateur naturalist. He thought, but then he suddenly realized that he had gone pro.
Yeah.
And so that was when he was 27. So you're 17, but
Yeah.
look, you got 10 years of wandering ahead of you. But
Yeah.
you might as well begin now. Maybe this is the big entry point. Maybe you hit it big right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And I think you will, because I think permaculture, I don't know, I know very little about it, but I know it's a huge part of humanity's future.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So it's like a great mission you have right ahead of you. So I want to help you do this trip, man. I want to see what happens.
Yeah.
But that means you have to entertain the many people who are going to support you in doing this. And by entertaining them, I mean you need to blog about what you're learning. You need to blog about what you've discovered. You need to blog about your theories. You need to blog about your frustrations.
Yeah.
You need to show your patrons that you are worth supporting because things are happening in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but if you don't get out there so that your patrons can find you,
Yeah. Nothing will ever
that's
happen.
the key thing. You need to get your patrons to find
Haven't
you.
you talked about doing stuff here in town as well? Well, one thing, if we get...
Yeah, well, we have our garden right out there, our school garden, right out by that cottage out there. So that's a start. In town, at least.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. And are you up on all the biology of all this stuff?
Yeah, somewhat.
The chemistry of it?
No, not really. I need to take chemistry.
You need to know the chemistry, man. You need to know the cycles. You need to understand the nitrogen cycle and all that.
Yeah. No, he's. We've done some soil, like. Yeah. Well, he's taught me some stuff about the soil and. Yeah, I mean, I take classes with him, and he's like a smart guy. So, I learn little snippets at a time.
What's the one thing that you like most about permaculture?
I like the idea of growing food more efficiently. I feel like our society has got like so inefficient, it's like ridiculous.
All right, but that's a conceptual answer to my question.
Yeah.
What do you like about doing permaculture? Being in it? Do you like the reading about it? Do you like the dirt between your fingers?
I like connecting like with the earth and with the soil.
So you don't mind being out there planting stuff? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked on like 3 gardens this year, and they have like a large scale garden out there. So like, I don't know, I see it firsthand, kind of, and I like go down and they do classes and stuff.